The power of non-resistance. It can seem a little counterintuitive, but it really is our greatest power. It's an ancient Chinese idea that water is the most powerful substance on Earth. And we have a lot of evidence of that these days with hurricanes and flooding in Texas, Louisiana, through South Asia, several countries in South Asia. And that's powerful, but what really is the true potency of water that makes it the most powerful substance on Earth? It's its property of non-resistance. Think about the Mississippi River. It started in this little lake up in Minnesota, and over the eons, navigated its way, carved its way through the earth 2,300 miles to the Gulf of Mexico. And over time, as it starts, it goes around the things that are in its way, right? The rocks, the trees, whatever might be there. But over time, it wears away at those things, right? Slowly, slowly, and carries the sediment down the river with it. And over time, what we see is entire mountains that have the river carved right through the middle. We see gorges, just even like the one we have here in Great Falls, created by the power of water's non-resistance. So it's an interesting topic, especially now, because of course we see resistance everywhere, right? Hashtag resist is every place. And people are resisting. They're resisting the president, they're resisting fascism, they're resisting racism. And if you add to that the wars that we have, the war on drugs, war on cancer, war on this, war on that, we're a nation in resistance. And on a more personal level, who here finds themselves resisting things in their everyday life? It could be in a relationship, a project, just all the stuff that you do have to do at home. I know I do it. Am I the only one?
Yes.
Yes? Uh-oh. And I guess this talk is going to go over so. So when we resist, it shows up for us as feelings of things like conflict or anger, frustration, procrastination, depression, and fatigue. Resistance is any time that we are pushing against or reacting to something. Kind of like I'm resisting summer ending right now. I'm pouting, right? And I'm thinking the weather should be different than it is. The Buddhists would call this disconnect the cause of suffering. However, we demonstrate it, though the resistance really is a mental construct. It's a mindset that reflects our perspective on what's going on in us and around us. Like Krishnamurti says, it's not what happens to us that makes us or breaks us, but how we react that determines what we are and what we will become. Or, as Florence Shinn so bluntly puts it, resistance is hell. And it places us in a state of inner torment. And it's also a part of human nature. Our systems, or human systems, strive for homeostasis, right? What got us through the day yesterday, no matter how bad it may seem, is what the system wants to do again tomorrow. Our systems really don't like change. It actually makes me think of a cartoon that I saw recently. I loved it. There's this guy at a podium, right, standing way up there, and there's a whole big crowd down below, and he asks, "Who wants change?" And everybody raises their hands and cheers, and then the next frame, he says, "Who wants to change?" And it's silent, and everyone's got their arms plastered against their sides. But change happens. It's a constant, perhaps only the constant in life. And resistance almost always comes up when we face any sort of change, no matter how small, even if it's on that unconscious sort of level. So resistance can also be based on our conscious and subconscious preferences. Michael Singer, in his amazing book, The Surrender Experiment, tells of how he practiced total non-resistance by completely letting go of preferences and living fully into and by the guidance that he received. And this led him from basically setting up as a recluse to running a really large spiritual community, founding a billion-dollar software company, and navigating a pretty harrowing and ultimately baseless government investigation. When we go into resistance, we're basically stepping out of our presence and creating an adversarial relationship with reality. It's a contraction of mind, of body usually, and of our spirit. We're contracting from our wholeness into our ego mind, as the Course in Miracles would call it. And this cuts off the flow of our good and actually leaves us powerless. We lose our creativity, our peace, our joy, and most importantly, our connection with God. Fighting what is creates internal negativity and conflict, which we're then projecting out and broadcasting everywhere we go. So you know what that does, right? We create even more of what we didn't want and what we were fighting in the first place. It's true that what you resist persists, and this is especially true because everything we experience is an outward projection of what's going on inside us. So we're just going to keep bumping into it. Florence Shin says you can run away from it, but it'll run right after you. Back in 2000, I guess it was, I was living in Manhattan and just starting on my spiritual path. And I got involved in this anti-globalization movement. It was actually a big deal at the time, though it actually seems kind of quaint compared to what's going on today. We were angry, right? People were going to lose their jobs, wages were going to drop, and like these already monstrous companies were going to become like monopolistic monoliths. So we were on the streets, we took people to court, the whole thing. But after a while, I realized that my set point from my mood was changing. I was becoming more irritable, more looking for offense almost, a little angry. And I also learned at that point that we actually feed what we fight. We're putting all our attention and energy into this thing that we don't want. But by giving it that, we're making it stronger. So if that's resistance, what exactly is non-resistance and how do we do it? I want to flag here, by the way, that what it's not is being passive, becoming a doormat and getting walked all over, letting the world pass you by, or abstaining from actions or causes that are really important to you. We'll see more about that in a minute. So the opposite of resistance really is presence. Or in Buddhist terms, really acceptance, right? Acceptance of what is. Our presence in and our presence with whatever it is that's happening right now. In The Eye of the Storm, Gary Simmons describes it beautifully as the seat of wholeness and the contact point between heaven and earth, between the field of infinite possibilities and the needs of the particular situation. Sounds nice, huh? If there's one verse in the Bible that really sums up Jesus' wise teachings of non-resistance, it's Matthew 5:38. I'm going to ask you to listen with an ear for metaphor. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn and give them the other cheek also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you. I'm going to read Eric Butterworth's breakdown of this because it's perfect. This is from The Power Within You. Jesus knew the divinity of man. He's trying to help us realize that there's always a depth of potential of strength within us, even in times of weakness. He's telling us that if we find ourselves upset about something another person has said or done, our upset indicates that we have been in the wrong state of consciousness. To react to it in this same state of mind only compounds the problem within us. Jesus has turned to the other side of your nature. You are both human and divine. There is that in you that can never be hurt, that is always poised and peaceful, that knows your spiritual unity with God, and that knows no one can take your good from you. In this diviner state of consciousness, the hurt is healed, the influence of the other person on you is nullified, and you become a healing influence on him. So this diviner state of consciousness is presence, being present to life, to end your connection with spirit. The two actually overlap like a Venn diagram. Gary Simmons writes, being present to life without conditions means being connected to our experience, to whatever is happening to us in the moment without pushing it away, without any ifs, ands, or buts. And while this is difficult to do in hurricanes and in the more mundane storms in our lives, it is the only way we can demonstrate the power and presence of God in the very situations we fear most. Being present in life also means being connected to your feelings and your intuition. It means taking life into your center. It means letting your center, your spiritual nature, move you instead of letting your fears or your insecurities do it. A movement from center is always an authentic response to a situation. So when we're truly present to an unpleasant situation, we're there and we're fully connected to our Christ consciousness. Whatever it is, if it's a spat or some phone call you don't want to make or some global political situation, you're connected. You're coming from your highest consciousness. And therefore you have all the power in the universe available to you. Your resourcefulness, your creativity, your intuition, and your highest discernment. Butterworth says that if we pull away from something, we're putting off our salvation or our wholeness. Our full unconditional presence restores our wholeness, restores the wholeness of anyone else involved, and can bring healing or completion to the situation. Florence Shinigan writes, agree with thine adversary quickly. Agree the adverse situation is for your good. Be undisturbed by it, and it falls away of its own weight. So instead of repeating our lessons, the power of non-resistance helps us complete them. We're going to take a look now at 3 things that you can do to access and activate your own power of non-resistance. I'm going to take a moment, though, and ask that you think of a situation in your life where you are in resistance. Anything at all. It could be a project, a person, an issue. And I invite you to hold this in your head, in your heart, as we go through these 3 things, and you can see how you might apply them and how it feels to come at the situation from a diviner consciousness. So, number 1, get centered and present. There is incredible power in centered presence. A lot of martial arts are based on this. Rooting yourself in your midsection, your hara or your dantian. In fact, there are lineages of Buddhist monks who train to fight, but it's not really about that. What they really are training is to be so centered in their divine wholeness. To be so fully present in what we would call their God self, that they never need to fight at all. So I know you all have practices. We'll do a meditation with this when we finish. We're going to take some time to access your truth, access your wholeness. Simmons writes that you are the avenue through which the presence of God lives in the world. Isn't that beautiful? He gives a great affirmation to use that is, I am a calm center of peace, radiating peace in every way. We can drop into our center at any time. We can get information from our truest self. We can exercise our intuition, our creativity, our discernment. When we're coming from this place, our truth is happening. When we're coming from fear, when we're coming from reactivity, it's a distortion, and we tend to make a mess. So number 2 is to adopt the mindset that everything is for me. We know life is not always easy, and while we may say that we want it to all be kittens and bonbons, studies actually show that we're happier and more fulfilled when not everything is easy and when we're overcoming challenges in our lives. Yet somehow we hold on to the idea of this challenge-free life as a dream. It seems odd, really, because we know it's not how it is. In school, somehow, we expected that there would be challenges, right? We knew there'd be hard homework, we'd be tested, but really all of life is like this, or at least for most of us. Butterworth relates a really interesting kind of story that Abraham Lincoln told when he was asked why he didn't get rid of this cabinet member that was particularly antagonistic to him. So Lincoln tells the story. He was visiting a friend who had a horse, and he saw a fly on the horse's hind quarter. So he's about to swat it off, and the owner says, no, don't touch it. He said if it weren't for that fly, that horse wouldn't move an inch. Demonstrating that sometimes it's the things that we would think of as a challenge that can truly be for us and for our growth. And it's how we do things when things are going badly that creates such powerful energy that can lead us to more good and joy in the moment and then amplify that good and joy so it's even huger when things are going great. We've all had experiences at some point where something we thought was just like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world, actually turns out to be the best. Or if not the best, then really useful for us in some way. Florence Shin has a great affirmation that I like to use here. It's written about people, situations with people, but you can adapt it to be about a situation. It's every person is a golden link in my chain of good. Everything is for me. When we adopt this, it allows us to look at everything differently, to stay centered, to stay in our heart, to stay with our truest wisdom through whatever it is that's coming our way. The third is affirm and baptize everything as success. This is from Florence Shin. I'm quoting her a lot today. This is The Game of Life and How to Play It. It's a wonderful, wonderful little book. So here's this practice. She relates a story from a metaphysician who said, at one time in my life I baptized children. And of course they had many names. Now I no longer baptize children, but I baptize events. But I give every event the same name. If I have a failure, I baptize it success. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So it's cool because what this illustrates is the law of transformation. transmutation actually, which is founded in non-resistance. Through his spoken word, every failure this man had was transmuted into success, becoming more and more that was available for him to use to create going forward. She also suggests affirming every morning right when you wake up, something positive and connecting that sets the tone for the day and invites your higher consciousness to get in the driver's seat. Hers was, "Thy will be done this day. Today is a day of completion. I give thanks for this perfect day. Miracles shall follow miracles, and wonders never cease." What an amazing way to start the day. It sets our tone and it anchors us in our home, so that as we're out traveling in the world, we can come from that solid place. So these are 3 non-resistance practices that you can use. And if you're still holding that resistance situation, does it look or feel any different to you now than it did before? Do you feel able to look at it in a different way? Perhaps even able to complete with it? When we get in God's way by resisting being present to the full range of our experiences in life, and circumstances require the full expression of God to be on the scene, our resistance hurts us and it hurts the situation. Non-resistance is a huge power you have with you always. You are the avenue through which the presence of God lives in this world. So do whatever it is that you're moved to do, and do it from non-resistance. Non-resistance looks more like standing for than pushing against. When actions come from resistance at that level of fear and reaction, results are also created at that level. We don't need any more of that, really. When you're doing something from your center of presence, from the truth of your God within, the outcomes will be at that level of consciousness too. So may you flow like water in your life and in the world, and may you always know yourself to be